Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. We're here for our monthly department head meeting update. Just kind of get a feel on what everybody's doing, what everybody's.
Good Lord, I thought I turned it off. I apologize.
And we're here to see if Randy
I'll have to call you right back. I'm in a meeting.
manipulate his telephone.
I turned the volume off.
Yeah, we didn't get donuts today. Man. All right, so let's just go around the group here. We're going to start with Randy. And how are we doing with setting the heat, Randy?
He'll be over here shortly. We'll
Yeah,
get that all set
I
up.
understand it was 58.
Yeah, I talked to Max yesterday afternoon, and he had some major issues going on, so he wasn't able to get over here. But I just talked to him. We text back and forth. He'll be over shortly. We'll get it fixed.
Okay.
I have to go grab him by his ear and drag him over here before the end of the day. We'll get it fixed.
What do we think's going on with it?
It's still set with a summertime setting, so it's shutting off in the evening and then kick it back on early in the morning because it's on the energy saving program. So
So it's
just need to turn that off.
the building gets
Yeah,
too cold.
and the building's getting cold because it's getting so cold in the evenings right now.
Then it's taking till noon to get.
And it's taking till noon to get warm. Yes.
I just saw our licensing department. The poor girl's wearing a hood.
She's dressed up like something. So yeah.
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 All right. What else is going on, Randy?
So I have met with these guys, or Apollo Solutions Group. Like, kind of get you guys a little bit of information on them. Last week they took me to lunch, and they're a company that helps with energy savings and repair work of government buildings or county buildings and such. And they also, along with services, they provide grants, research, and low income loans, which they can offset a lot of times with the savings though that we'll see with their programs that they put us under. They're going to give me some pricing on putting some solar skins on the windows for like summertime, so it'll help with the cooling and a few other things. They also have a division where they do maintenance on AC and heating and plumbing. They give us a proposal to do the jail and the courthouse, and what they'll do is they'll come in twice a year, change all the filters, lube everything, get inside those big air handlers up in the attic. Actually, get inside them and clean them and make sure they're working proper. And they said that the cost would be probably seen, at least part of the cost would be seen in the savings of our energy bill.
Wait 1 minute. What we should do is we probably should bring this into another meeting.
Yeah.
When you, we'll have, maybe we can have Randy come in, get a meeting scheduled with Sydney, and we'll come in and we can discuss this.
Okay.
And figure it out from there, so that we're not
And
getting stuff that we're gonna make a decision on.
yeah, I was just giving you that as a kind of a pre
Okay.
because I was getting to this point where he was asking if he could actually meet with you guys and explain things to you a little better than getting it from secondhand. So if we could set something up maybe the next week or two with him,
Okay.
and so I'll get together with Sydney, and
Let's do that.
so I just wanted to give you guys a little information so you wouldn't walk into it not knowing what we're getting into or what he's going to be talking about. Okay.
What you got happening?
I got the third phase of the floor started last night. They're working on the stairs and getting the repair work done, and they're doing the lobby downstairs, the main entry, getting that all done. Started prepping for snow removal and stuff. I got shovels and salt and everything at the increase. We had to put a new lock on the side door over here. They weren't able to put one on like the old one where when you come in the morning and you unlock it, it would just automatically lock back. So until he's able to get that type, he had to order it. It's got a deadbolt on it. So if you unlock it with a key and you come in that door, just switch it back or turn around and lock it back. Otherwise, it's not going to lock. And still working on the library and the office upstairs. Just about got the framing all done. I got BJ and George coming in this week to do the electric and the computer layout and stuff. And then I can start getting that all wired up. And other than that, just basic stuff around day to day.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I continue to get compliments on that.
Yes.
I like that.
And if you haven't seen his framing up there and the office up there, go up there and look at it. You're doing a great job.
Appreciate it. And Jeff and I went out and fixed the little repair work on the garage up at the airport this week too. I forgot about that. So,
Appreciate how busy you're staying.
well, I appreciate it too.
And just the other day, I said, I wish you'd get those leaves off that tree. And
Yeah.
gone.
Now they're all on the ground. I got to do something with them. So I get out there this afternoon when it gets a little warmer and start blowing them up in a pile and getting them out of there.
Grant Queen, what do you got going?
A few things. So right now I'm working on the STOP grant. That's a continuation for our domestic violence grants for the prosecuting attorneys. Of course, we're still working on the ILED and working on trying to get a counselor in for that. We have an interview today, but we're getting a little bit of interest. So still, if you know somebody with counselor credentials, get a hold of us. We're finding other pathways to make that happen. The doing Idaho Transportation Department, the bus grant is due in January, so I'm working on that as well to get that up and running so we can continue to have our bus funded. Met with the preservation group and a historic preservation construction group out of, I think, Spokane. I can't remember exactly where they are now. We went over the balconies and kind of looked at the structural integrity. Randy was able to come in on the first one. They got me a bid and so it's just to shore them up and do some assessments. To do continuation of work was $30,000, and so far I only have $14,000 in grants to do it. So I don't know how we're going to do that, but it's a conversation that we've had, and he'll do some preventative measures this winter, and we'll see what we can do to figure out the other
Keep our
$15,000.
balconies from falling off.
Right.
Yeah, if we're going to have them repaired, she and I kind of talked about it. If we're going to go ahead and have them repaired next year, it's a lot of money to do something for a short fix. So we'll just keep an eye on them. And
Because that is what it is. It's just taking them off, doing an evaluation of what's behind there, what's the building look like, what do we need to do, and then securing them in a way that they are good for a couple of years. But it is a temporary fix. It's not intended to be the permanent fix from the way I understood it.
So we will tentatively put on hold that plan of having you stand on the balcony in the Santa suit at Christmas.
yeah.
Probably not.
I'm not going to get on the roof either because I'm scared of heights. So.
So the rest is just, spreadsheets and keeping things going there. We are getting in the broadband realm. We have received some requests for interest and some proposals from different people that may help us with our BEAD planning. So today's the closing date on that, and I expect to receive two more today. So that's actually really good news. I was happy with who has responded. Yay, there is interest in Shoshone County. We did have a meeting with the libraries, the Idaho libraries and the University of Idaho, and did some planning and some asset preparation. So this is where I need to get the community involved in the broadband action team. We've got a Google Drive that has all the information out there to bring in resources. These are things that we need to collect and have ready for our BEAD proposals. So we're in the process. BEAD, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment, I think is what BEAD stands for. So that's a federal program. Idaho had $583 million to deploy out. Right now they are in, they just closed up the comment periods. So the public comment came back on how they should operate them. I expect to see the applications come out next year. So it'll be 24 before we can apply for them. And then the expectation is end of 24 to have them ready to go so that there's a build season in 25 is kind of how the time on those. But we're figuring out what we can do and where we can go and what partners we have right now. So doing those other things, the community involvement and going on to that, and I'd be happy to share that anywhere that you guys want. That is going to be key for us to be able to have that community buy-in and that component of our BEAD application. The intent is, a double-digit millions so that we can actually get connectivity to our places that don't have them. It also is a part of education in the community, so it's not just, go out there and donuts. It's not just go out there and say, here you go, here's internet, good luck with that. It really is, we have a huge education and community involvement piece that we need to have in that, so that when you get fiber to your home, you know what you're doing with it and how to effectively use it, how safely to use it, because that is part of it, is the cybersecurity. That's such an issue these days, is making sure that people not only have access, but they have the understanding of how to use it safely and effectively for them. So that's kind of where we are with the broadband. It's still a big ongoing thing. And thankfully, we have good partners with Commerce and the Idaho Libraries and University of Idaho's Digital Equity Program and NTIA. A lot of collaborative work. I did apply for USDA planning grant to keep going with what we're doing with Celerity. It's the first of its kind, so it was supposed to be awarded the 1st of October, and they're trying to figure that out, so we haven't heard anything yet, but fingers crossed we get that one. And then when it opens up, I'll also apply for the Idaho Bead Planning grant that's out there. I think we've got enough foundational that it should be kind of a no-brainer for them to give it to us. So positive vibes in the universe for all the grants that we've got going on. That's it.
Okay. Well, is that on?
Yeah, for this week.
Okay, for this week. Thank you. Public Works.
So we have an opening for a full-time position for an operator at our Osborne shop currently. Not an ideal time to be trying to fill a position, but we did have one of our employees decide to move on to a different area. And so we posted it last week, the job opening. And so if you hear of anybody that might be looking that has a CDL, please send them our way. We're looking to fill it as quickly as possible. We also put out notification that we're accepting applications for our temporary positions as well. So hopefully we will get a full crew of temps to get us through our winter that's decided to settle in, and it changes quickly out there. So yeah, if you heard anybody at all looking, please send them my way. We are working on getting all the equipment ready for winter. We were pretty much ready for winter, but we had deferred some of our maintenance into this fiscal year. So we're just kind of getting some finishing touches going on some of the equipment, but we look like we're ready to go when Mother Nature lets loose, which could be any time. And we are working with our supervisors on clearing some of the vehicles, travel trailers, things out of our right-of-ways. Starting with the big problem areas first, we have, in all the districts, we have a couple of problem areas where it's not just a vehicle that's parked that's going to cause a problem for plowing. It might be 4, 5, 6 vehicles and a travel trailer. So we've really been putting forth some effort to get these areas posted for our 10-day encroachment notice, and just communicate with the residents on the width that we will need for plowing to get through. So that's pretty much been taking up the bulk of our time. Other than that, we're just preparing for the winter. We've tried to give everybody their vacation time because it's not very easy for them to take that in the winter. So we're trying to get everybody's hours down to where they're manageable, and I think we're in pretty good shape for that.
I got a question. Do we have any temp workers in Calder?
We will be bringing on one temp worker in Calder. Yes.
You also got some striping done. Appreciate that.
We did. Yes.
Several people calling about asking for that striping.
Yes.
So appreciate you getting that taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
Any update on just that sand shed up Goma Gulch? Where are we with that project?
So that is going to be built by our Smelterville crew. And our employee that's kind of heading that up, because the weather did change so quickly, and we're having to mobilize for winter, we're ready to go for that. They're going to be submitting for permit to you guys to get that taken care of, but we've opted to wait. I kind of left it up to that employee if he felt comfortable pushing ahead. We didn't want to get started, get partway finished, and then have everybody have to be out plowing, and then we have this half-finished project that's taking up space at our yard. So, we did talk to that employee, let him kind of make the call, and so we are going to put that off until spring, but that's going to be one of our first orders of business when we're able to get that going.
So how do we take care of the sand freezing problem?
We'll do the best that we can with it, and we we didn't have a sand shed last year, and we made it through. You know, we'll just do the best that we
That
can
was
with
the
it.
longest winter in
It was the
Really?
longest winter. It was one of the coldest ones. We just kept having a ton of precipitation, and then we'd have a drag of like 0 degrees forever, and then it would just be that same cycle over and over again for months. And so, our hope is that it's not going to be quite as cold, but we're prepared to deal with it.
Okay. Appreciate all the things you're getting done. Now, can you find us some paving grants?
I would love to. Constantly looking for those. We did put in. We're waiting to hear back from the strategic initiatives grant, which is a zero match. That would entail about a mile of paving on Silver Valley Road, and they haven't let anybody know yet. So everybody's just kind of waiting. Who's put their applications in.
And how did we do on the RAC grant?
We did well on the RAC grant. We actually ended up with $200,000 to put into Old River Road, and we will be doing that project. Our project window for that is going to be July and August. To make the money go further, basically we just applied for money for assistance for materials. You know, we will be doing all of the labor and using our own equipment for that. So we're pretty excited to get that project off the ground. There's going to be a lot going on up in that area next year.
Have you done anything with the newspaper on that? Because we get so many calls.
No, what I was hoping for is we were supposed to within the last week have heard the results of the strategic initiatives, and I was hoping to notify them with news of both. So if we don't hear something soon, I will make sure to contact the newspaper about that.
Just because we have so many people
Yes,
interested in
and that is going to cover from Silver Bridge up until milepost 8. So originally we put through milepost 4. We revised our application, and then we were awarded $200,000 to go through milepost 8. So we're going to do the most we can with what we've got. A lot of that's going to be dependent on price of materials. That's going to be a huge factor in how far it goes, but we're going to do our best with that road.
And that leaves us getting together to talk about parking lot grants.
So we did have a change with our main contact, and the new lady, we were only down about 2 months in conversations. So we now have a new director at DEQ that we're starting those again, and so we will, we have to schedule an.
We actually just received emails this morning requesting to get going with the meeting scheduling, that they've kind of redirected duties there, and they're ready to start up again on the conversations.
And she's up to speed. I met with her a couple weeks ago at in the Northwest or Panhandle Area Council meeting, and so we were able to poke that and get them reinvigorated again.
Reinvigorated.
Me and Calder last week, that was one of their main concerns, is their roads.
Yes.
Is the road, and I kind of like to see if we can get some kind of grant for that road, because it's pretty heavily traveled, and they're having trouble
Sure.
keeping up with it, and that's a really main arterial. So if you go from Shoshone into Vanawa, it's like night and day. So I think we really need to look at that road and see if we can find some type of grant that we can help those folks out.
I'll look closely at the FLAP grants. That road qualifies pretty heavily in the FLAP grant department because it is access to federal lands down there, and so that one seems to do well. They did a FLAP down there for some chip sealing and some striping back in 2019, and it was a pretty sizable one. It was about a $5 million project, so definitely going to focus on that road.
Okay.
Yep, you bet.
On the water side of that for Calder, we're
Yes.
still moving forward, but that's been a slow one. So we're now in a good position to start the planning for that to do grants next year. They're not in as good a position as Clarkia because we don't have that set aside money. But I have talked with JB and a couple other people, and they said, yeah, I think we can make that work. So I've started the conversations again. I'm just waiting to hear back from Calder Fire and their water systems to get those conversations started so that we know. How we can proceed.
The chief, he retired, and
Mhm.
I think his grandson's the new chief, but he kind of had some problems where he was out of contact for about 6 months. So
Oh gosh, that would explain
hopefully,
it. So,
hopefully there's another guy that needs to get in contact with you. I can't remember his name.
I received an email, and so I emailed back and said I'd like to set up a time, but
Okay.
maybe that's part of they're still working
they're
through that
kind of-
transition. I'll just ping them all. I have 2 or 3 emails. I'll just ping them all and say, somebody come to the table.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay. P and Z. Whoever wants to go first. Love to hear from both of you today.
We've been doing nothing.
Just hanging,
Just hanging out.
staying warm.
Just kidding. We ended the year, of course, October's our fiscal year as well. We ended the year about 20% up on building permits. I don't know what the percentage is on land use cases, subdivisions, and conditional use permits, but we did a lot. I think we were 7 subdivisions and 4 or 5 conditional use permits. So each one of those is a public hearing process that we get to go through. And that's normally, that's a 2 or 3 a year thing. So to go from 3 or 4, 2 or 3 or 4 to 7 or 8 or 9, that's a lot to be accomplished. We've been working through a variety of issues that have been ongoing for quite some time, but with use of RVs, use of cabins, use of tiny homes, use of those illegal structures, and people trying to live and do what they can from recreating to just finding a place to live. That's become increasingly a significant code enforcement issue on how do we deal with that. It's not clear. There's no black and white rules whether you're speeding or not speeding, and so it's a cumbersome thing. But we're working through that and trying to figure out what other counties are doing, other jurisdictions, and what rules they've been able to put in place that are effective at being able to enforce. And going through that, so we have how many active code violations? 7 or 8 active code violations, things we're working on at the moment. Working on trying to get people compliant with what do they have, and got a few of these tiny home things that are being sold from out of Spokane that are the definitions are being widely misunderstood. That it's a tiny home, yeah, we can set it, and we didn't need permits. It's like, well, you do need permits for manufactured homes. These aren't manufactured homes, and they're not inspected by anybody from the state or us, and so they don't qualify as anything. So now we're having to deal with these people have them, they're there, and how do we tell them to put them back to being RVs or get them off the property? And so we're working through stuff like that and trying to figure out what rules can we apply and what can we change our ordinances to help us effectively govern those things. And that's really difficult because there's no easy solution, and not many communities out there have figured it out either, and even other communities with larger staffs and stuff like that. So, but that's a big thing we've been working on. We've also been contemplating, new building permit app programs that might help us organize and facilitate building permit app programs. That kind of coincides with the imagery program that we've been recently talking about exploring with that company. And that might, and it may prove to be something that we can look at. There's other entities for that. They're all expensive, and so you have to figure out whether or how we can pay for them. One of the avenues, particularly for building permit applications, is to simply add that in as a service fee to the building permits, and then have the building permits pay for part of that, if not most of it. So that's been in the past. It's been sort of a way to do that. But again, it's always been bringing on a whole new computer program, as you might be able to attest, is a bit of an endeavor as well. And then you go, well, we've been getting away with just manually doing it for this many years. We can just keep getting away with manually doing it, and we don't have to go spend money and that kind of thing. But we are looking into those to how can we make this more efficient and better use of our time. Planning and zoning the commission has been working on predominantly not only all those cases I was just talking about, but the Mountain Overlay District ordinance has been in the works since the beginning of the year at least. We're almost there. I think we have mostly a final draft that they're going to be reviewing next week, and then we think they can be at the point of being able to make a decision on the draft and then send that up to you guys for the final. We've also been in the works on establishing access road standards. In the past, we've always leaned on building code, and we've always leaned on site disturbance. We've always leaned on the building code part of needing access standards and using the fire district to decide whether or not, the driveway is good enough to get to somebody's house. We're actually adopting a set of road standards that mimics fire code, but puts it applies to everywhere, not just where the fire districts are. Because that got problematic with properties that are outside of defined fire districts. Does the fire code apply? And it sort of did under building code, but it was a loose, I always thought it was a loose fit. So we're actually adopting, or they're looking at adopting, and they're going to vote on that, and they'll bring that forward to you as well. But it'll be a standalone ordinance that establishes road standards. And so that'll be that's in the works. We're just cramming away down there, trying to keep the place afloat, trying to figure out how to structure the department, and how I can keep busy helping out, and
Get that
put the
out,
structure
that application out.
how we want to, look at structuring based on the budget we have. And we need to have that meeting, and then we'll just keep plugging away in the meantime.
Yeah.
So we're doing okay. Emergency management wise, I've been talking the past few months about working on the different applications. Well, those applications are final and done now. And so they've been applied for, and unfortunately this year we're taking a little bit of a drop in pay with the SHSP grant, a couple $1,000s less than we've been getting. So that's unfortunate, but it just is what it is. The EMPG grant went up a little bit, about $1,500. But those applications have been applied for, and they're submitted, and they're done, and we're waiting for the final approval, and this is for the funding for the next coming year. The 22 EMPG reimbursement has been applied for, and and that's been accepted, and we should be receiving a check back on that probably within the week. So that's all done. We've been working through the LEPC, the Local Emergency Planning Committee, this last few months on a review and update of our emergency operations plan. We went through a complete rewrite in 2019 and the end of 20. We got a whole new emergency operations plan then, and essentially we went through and changed the name and addresses of the new sheriffs and fire chiefs and different people, but effectively the plan hasn't changed. But I'll be bringing that update to you in the coming month or so for a final approval of the county emergency operations plan. I've been working with Bill McLeod on updating the community wildfire protection plan. And so he's been in the works, been doing most of that work, but I've been helping here a little bit. And that's underway. We've got IDL helping us rewrite that draft, and that's pretty close to being rewritten, and that'll be good to have that updated. I'm working on with EMPG funds. I put in one of the grants, in that grant to, part of one of those projects is to hire a consultant to help us get the BRIC grant, BRIC stands for, but it's the federal grant that helps us pay for a consultant that helps us rewrite our all hazards plan. And the all hazards plan is the overarching FEMA plan for all the hazards. And that's more than 5 years old, and so it needs to be updated. And the one we did in late 18, it actually didn't get adopted until early 20. It was a pretty good plan. In those plans is a whole list of projects that you're intended to work on that needs to get updated. So, but that'll take a whole series of meetings. We're working on some grant money to get that done. I recently pulled out the mass casualty unit trailer. Last year, a year and a half ago, we pulled it out and put new battery in it, put new tires on it, make sure the bearings were good. This year, I've been working with the LEPC folks, particularly the fire and EMS folks, to put that trailer back into more functional use. I mean, technically we could have dragged it out and used it. It's got lots of medical equipment and lots of equipment on it for a large-scale disaster, large-scale incident. Largely nobody really knew what was in it and what was on it and how it was to be used. And so we got that pulled out. It's now down at the Osborne station, and their crew is going to go through it, going through the inventory and going through and pulling. There's a bunch of medical, there's saline bags and old tubing and different things that's all expired and done, but they can utilize that for training, which is pretty handy because then they can actually play with the tubing and play with the connections and that kind of stuff. You don't want to open up new stuff and play with trying to connect it to a thing before you put it in something. So that's really actually pretty helpful for them. And but then it also it helps them train to what's in that bag. So we're gonna be able to re-outfit those bags, and then those bags will stay on the ambulances or in the hospital. And then they'll be available for a mass incident. We'll have 13 extra bags of stuff. But we're also gonna outfit it with potentially some other equipment, like swift water, equipment. The District 1 is working on a grant to get some swift water equipment and some training for some of the people. We've never had that before, and the nearest one is Coeur d'Alene. And even that, they're not terribly well suited for, which is interesting to me, that North Idaho with all of its rivers and lakes and ponds, that apparently we don't have a whole bunch of accidents where people get stuck in the water. Maybe Minnesota has a bigger problem with that, I don't know. But anyway, they've been looking into that, and this would be a trailer we could put that equipment on, and have it available for use. And so with that comes a whole bunch of administration stuff, which is what I get paid for. Is to go through the memorandum of understanding and the bylaws that goes with that trailer, so that we know and we can better train to when the sheriff needs it or when the fire chief needs it, who does he call and who goes and gets it. And right now, the way it's set up is I go get it. And that's what the truck I drive for emergency management is. That was bought with that trailer. It's intended for that purpose. The question is that the most ideal use of my time during a large scale event? Maybe. Certainly, if anybody calls and tells me to go, I'm going to jump and go. But anyway, so those are the things we're going to work through the administrative side of that, and that's what I'll be working on in the coming month. Other than that, we're not doing much anymore.
How's it going for you?
He's cracking the whip. He keeps me busy.
Is it getting clearer and clearer? day by
Absolutely.
day?
Yep. We have a game plan. We're executing and keeping everything moving
And
forward.
then we get a phone call, and then we get an email from somebody, and then we get to deal with this and deal with that. I'm like, it's a never-ending something.
Once
You're doing the code violation stuff right now. The
Yes.
Stuff that Jerry, kind of.
we work in it as we have time. I mean, it's one of those,
But you're starting.
we have started
sure.
small,
Yeah.
very small scale, because we don't want to send out
Yeah.
20 letters and then we're going to get 20 response. We've got to be able to handle them and manage them.
Starting now, which is the
Absolutely.
most important.
Working with the assessor and public works, and we want to be a
Just for the
united front
public,
on
You
this.
want to be more clear on what you're talking about there. We're talking about the building permit.
Yeah, we're talking about the building permits and folks that have structures that they didn't get permits on,
Mhm.
and that our assessor went out and has found all these structures or whatever they've put in there during the last assessment, and they should have had permits. And so now they're going and writing a letter and getting them resolved. So that'll.
So how's that work, Dan, with the,
Well, in particular, James from the assessor's office is bringing us a list and keeping us updated on anything new they find, on a list of buildings they found. So we then start the investigation on those to determine, did we have a permit for it? Sometimes it's just miscommunication that when we issue a building permit, we copy the assessors on that to show them that, hey, we've issued a permit for a barn or a house. And then whether or not that person starts that building, an hour later, they have a record of it. So many times when they go look at stuff, they may not have that record, because somehow I forgot to send them that email that says we issued that permit, or in the past that didn't happen. And so we can first confirm whether we do or don't have a permit for it. And then we can send them a letter that says, hey, we see that you've got a building there and we don't have your record of having a permit. And then we give them some time frame to respond, and if they don't respond, we send a second notice, and we go from there.
What's the
and then sorry.
The remedies get a building permit. Now, it depends on what it is, right?
If
If
it's
the
already
remedies
built.
get a building permit, it's quite difficult, because it's, stuff's already built. How do you inspect it? And we obviously push that back to the building official to figure out what he can or can't do to be able to assess the foundation, to be able to assess what's behind the sheetrock. And sometimes it means pulling some sheetrock off so we can see that there's insulation back there, or getting access to the attic so that we can see if there's the right framing and the right insulation up there. Some investigation has to happen. Did they get electrical and plumbing and HVAC permits? Do they have septic permits? Do they have all the normal stuff we go through when we issue a permit? We kind of reverse that process.
Is there any
So-
kind of penalty fee or?
Mostly it's just get the permit. So on buildings themselves, we have the ability built into the fee structure as well as building code. We can double charge for the building permit itself. Code and using an RV park or something else land use wise, it is a violation. It is a misdemeanor, but you have to take it all the way to court before somebody's actually charged and found guilty. And so until that's happened, we don't have a fee schedule for somebody needs to get a conditional use permit for an RV park. They just come get it, and then we go through the process and we get them compliant. Is the remedy. There's no fiscal way to other than building permits. Building permits we can and do charge the extra fee as a slap on the hand to hey, don't do that, and in the hopes that they go back to wherever they got that information and tell those people thanks for giving bad information. We certainly want to promote that getting a permit is not really for us to be regulators. Getting a permit is to save you on your ability to sell, your ability to insure, and your liability on your private property. That's why we do this. It's not because I want to be a regulator and I need a job. We do it for the security of people, and so that in our community we have consistently built structures to a minimum code. Or you end up with communities that, boy, you don't know how they're built. Communities that don't have building code, you don't know how those structures are built. And so, we concentrate on life safety issues, private property infringement. Beyond that, it becomes a little harder to put as much emphasis on. There's building code in the IBC that after 10 years, it's deemed that it probably met the minimum code requirements. And so we don't have that readily written into our code, but we were exploring that when we update to the new code. Kootenai already does that. And basically what it means is if they find an old structure that was built 10 years ago and they haven't been able to enforce on it, they can use the judgment that, hey, it probably met the minimum code requirements at the time, so therefore it's now compliant, or non-conforming, but not non-compliant. And that way it absolves them from insurance, it absolves them from the code enforcement part. Which also helps us because as long as we can start assessing it.
Any further?
Well, steps in the right direction. We've had real good meetings with the prosecuting attorney's office and establishing a process and establishing a protocol for noticing and when a case gets to the point where people won't get in line, then we can escalate it to the prosecuting attorney to send letters and send more forceful information that says you should come see us. And that's worked out well so far.
Okay. Commissioner?
Well, I went to Calder and Avery last Friday, and held office hours there. They have a few concerns that we're working through. One of them was their fire department. They're needing equipment, extra training, so I'm meeting with District 1 today at 2 to see if maybe they can lend a hand. Then I'll be meeting with District 2 and then Pritchard. Pritchard seems to be a good model of a fire department for them to model after. They went ahead and got a grant and got a new water tender. These guys have water tenders from 1964 that IDL wants back because they want them off their equipment list. So, and then I talked to the sheriff yesterday. They want more of a presence down there, and also their emergency services do not have radio access. So we're gonna, the sheriff is gonna get with the Forest Service because she has access. So hopefully that'll get taken care of. And then we discussed with you about the road. I'm gonna try to make it down there more often, and they're kind of the forgotten bunch, but
Yeah.
they're nice people, and I thanked your roads guy personally.
Great.
Because
Great.
he was down there, and he's doing a really good job. He's going to the school, and that's
Gotten a
one of
lot
their
of good
concerns.
feedback from the public
Yep,
on
I have
him.
too.
Yeah, so I've just seen a lot of positive changes down there. So I'm anticipating he's got some good thoughts for plans for winter maintenance. So
Yes.
I think you're going to hear some improved feedback from the community this winter.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what I think too. But that's
Compared to our first meeting.
and
Making progress.
we're making progress. So hopefully I'll get the fire department deal going for them, and then the sheriff's kind of looking at that, and then so hopefully we'll get some of their questions answered, concerns, so.
Commissioner?
Monday I'll be holding with the mayor of Kellogg. We'll be out there for the community at the Bean, having coffee and conversations, meeting with the public in our district, and
Oh, you're gonna do, you're gonna do office hours in Kellogg at the city hall?
we'll be at the Beanery, the coffee shop.
Okay.
Yeah, with the mayor and any other city councils that want to show up. And
I think that's a great thing.
Well, when I did that 2 weeks ago, all I discovered is I need to advertise it better, try and get the word out. But I did have folks show up, and apparently folks showed up the next Monday thinking I was gonna be
Oh.
there every.
Oh.
But we got too many places to cover, so, all right, anything else you wanted to share?
other than everyone probably seen, we accomplished our construction issues of the speed and unsafe
Yeah,
lanes.
thank you for that. We were,
Um,
when I drove through that construction site when I first started coming up, when I first moved here, I couldn't believe that it was 65 and 55 because I've never seen that anywhere. It's always been 35 or 45.
Yeah.
Construction.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think they'd be concerned about their workers as well with that traffic flying through there like
Yep.
that. But they heard us down in Boise and agreed with, had Holly get all the statistics, and that was only back to May, not the full 2 years they've been going. And it was an excessive amount of calls, and they were shocked. I don't think the project manager who gave me the original response had really relayed any of that, so they didn't really appreciate being over their head, but it worked.
Okay. Sydney, anything from your side?
I think so.
Oh, come on, Sydney, we all want to hear from you.
It's all good.
Appreciate Sydney keeping everything coordinated and organized, so.
Yes.
All right, does anybody have any questions or anything, rumors going around the county, et cetera? You got your paycheck today, you got a letter saying
Yes, thank you for
we
that.
increase the couple of the days of admin time to try and help compensate a little bit for the lack of cost of living increases. And we continue to move forward on as many areas as we can, trying to figure out what we know we have the budget crunch, and we're actively looking at how we're going to try to raise revenue and do things to, besides just wait until next fall and then start cutting. So we're looking at that. So I'll be picking your brain some more and picking each of your departments as we look at that. I think all three commissioners are working on that problem and making some slow headway. And so I'm hoping as we get into this new year that we can start looking at, it seems like we've spent a lot of time fixing things. It'd be nice to start working on new and progressive, ideas for improving things, new parking lots, new pavement, and just, fixing, we got to keep fixing the things that are broke, but it'd be nice to look at new forms. What can this county do besides property tax for income? How do we make visitors pay their fair share? All those things.
Yeah.
So that we're not just burdening the poor taxpayer with all of it. So I think we're turning the corner. Things are starting to look good. So I want to thank you all for taking the time to be here. And with that, we are adjourned.